Hi and welcome to this week's episode of From the Shed. I'm Pete George, the host, and we're going to get stuck into a couple of things this week, and that being the Betfred Worldmarchplay darts and round 7 of the AFL, and if there's anything else there that we need to have a look at, we will have a look at. So, first of all, let me explain to you and introduce you to From the Shed. I have been a sports person for many years. I've also been a sports photographer, and now, due to health problems, I'm now going to become a sports caster, which is going to be a lot of fun. From the Shed, we will cover only a few sports, the sports that I have covered, played, and still playing, and we have contacts with, and that is darts. So that'll be Australian darts when that gets fired back up again in a big way. But the PDC, which is the big governing body, the one that you see on TV and the one where you see Russ Bray screaming out the 180 that he calls. So that's what we'll cover there. We'll also cover AFL, being a Melburnian. It's one of those things that is in your blood and never leaves. So we'll be doing that as well. Golf is another one that I've always enjoyed photographing and being involved with, and been involved with golf from a playing perspective, sponsors perspective, and photography perspective. So we'll cover that. And the fourth one might be just the odd bits and pieces, like some motorsport or anything that's of a major event that is happening around the world or in Australia. We'll cover that. So to start things off, being the way we'll run it, if there's a major event like the Betfred match play in darts, we will cover that first in the podcast, and then we'll work our way through what we want to talk about. So with further ado, we will be getting into So welcome to our first of our dart segment. We are looking for sponsors. If someone wants to sponsor the darts, by all means let us know. So the Betfred World Match Play is great to have back on the calendar with the COVID-19 situation around the world. We didn't know when any sport was going to be played. We've been fortunate in Australia that the sports have been opening up more and more, and finally we've got some darts that we can watch on mainstream TV. They've had the summer series of darts in the UK, which has sort of warmed the players up, and there's been a couple of new winners on the tour, Ryan Joyce being one of them. Michael Van Gerwen 1-2, Peter Wright 1-1, James Wade 1-1, and there's one missing. There was 5 events. So this Sunday morning sees the start of the Betfred World Match Play being played over at the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes in the UK. There will be no crowds, but at least we can get to see it on a main, well, at least Foxtel and PDC TV. The 2019 winner was Rob Cross. He's just come off a runners-up on the 4th day, I'm pretty sure, or the 4th final. He lost to James Wade, but prior to that, he hit a 9 data, which is not the easiest thing to do. Being the current champion, who's he playing first? He's playing Gabriel Clements. Now, they're both Target sponsored players. It'll be a tough game. Gabriel's pretty consistent, normally pretty emotionless up on the stage, so you can't get a real good read. I think just the couple of matches that Rob's been playing, I think he will get through okay. From an Australian perspective, we've only got the one representative, and that being Simon Whitlock. He's hanging in there. His form hasn't been great, and he will be beaten by Ryan Joyce. Ryan was one of the new winners on the PDC over the summer series. He won, I think it was day 2, I'm pretty sure he won. So that's a bit of an inspiration for him to do well in the match play. And I think he will give Simon a serious touch-up. Now, the way it works with the opening rounds, there's 3 days of 5 rounds or 5 matches, starting Sunday, 19th of July at 3 a.m. And then they go Monday, Tuesday, and there's one final game on Wednesday of the first round, and then they get into the second round matches. So I'll preview these the first round matches today, and then we will have a second person come into the show, and we will do the next previews and the reviews of the matches that have been, give our thoughts and give a little bit of a stir up to the winners and the losers. So on Sunday, 3 a.m, Simon Whitlock and Ryan Joyce get the World Match Play underway, and as I've mentioned earlier, Ryan Joyce will give Simon Whitlock a serious touch-up. The second match on the stage will be Krzysztof Rajeski against Jermaine Watamina. Watamina gives me the irrits. Just the way he carries on, he scores a triple 20 and he thinks he's thrown a 180, but I think Krzysztof will do him quite comfortably in the first round. So the third match of the day sees James Wade take on Keegan Brown. Keegan's a fairly consistent dart player, but I think James Wade's form over the last 5 matches that he's been playing in, concluding into a win on the 4th day, I think he'll beat Keegan Brown. Then former world number 1 Michael Van Gerwen takes on Brendan Doolan. Brendan, he's up and down, but he's a very, very good player. He has beaten Michael before. Not sure if it's been on stage or not. Still got to stick with Michael Van Gerwen because who he is, but don't be surprised if there's a little upset there. Then the final match on the opening day is Gary Anderson versus Justin Pipe. Gary Anderson should win that quite comfortably, and that'll finish off the first day. Then on Monday, July the 20th at 3 o'clock again in the morning, folks, get your recorders happening or get up early. I'll be up, so I'll be texting about the matches and things like that. So you can follow us on Facebook at From the Shed or on Twitter at Lifestyle. I'm pretty sure it's lifestyle.com.au. So I'll follow us there on Twitter or Facebook. Facebook's the normally one where I have a bit of a chat and a bit of fun. So the second day sees Wenzel Sulovic take on Jamie Hughes. Jamie's played well. Wenzel's done okay over the summer series. I do like Wenzel Sulovic as a player. Tossing up. I got to call that a draw, but there can't be a draw. But I'll go Wenzel. There you go. Go Wenzel. Then the second match will see Glenn Durant, or Durant, whichever way you want to call it. He's against Jeffrey Deswan. Glenn will win that quite comfortably. He doesn't win world championships for no reason. Doesn't matter who it's up against. If you're a world champion, you're a world champion. And he'll do that quite comfortably. Then the current world champion of the PDC, Peter Wright, takes on Jose de Souza. Peter Wright's in excellent form, won the 5th day of the summer series and was consistent all the way through. I think he had one match there where he had 116 average. It was mad. He will win that quite comfortably. And then that leaves the last match, Michael Smith versus Johnny Clayton. Now, if you haven't seen any images of him, he has dropped a heap of weight, Michael. He's looking pretty good and svelte. And he will quite comfortably win that match against Johnny Clayton. Then we go into Tuesday, same time, 3 a.m. Dave Chisnell up against Vincent van der Voort. Dave has been showing some good form, fairly consistent. his switch of darts. I don't know if he's using the new current darts, but I think he's playing a lot better, a little bit more consistent, a little bit more relaxed. So I think Dave will win that. Then the Enigma, Ian White. I call him the Enigma because he doesn't win on stage and then he goes and wins tournaments elsewhere. He's up against Joe Cullen. I like Joe in this one. I think he'll be a little bit too steady for Ian. And then we get the toss of the coin on personalities here. We've got Daryl Gurney versus Ricky Evans. I think this might be the first of the big names to go out. I think Ricky Evans will beat Daryl Gurney. It'll be a close match, but Ricky Evans for me on this one. Then we go to Gerwin Price and Danny Noppert, and will be the first upset. Danny Noppert is very, very consistent. Once he gets on a roll, he's very, very hard to stop. Gerwin Price has been playing inconsistent over the summer series. In my opinion, with match play, you've got to be on your mettle from that game. And I just think Danny Noppert will beat Gerwin Price and be the first of the upsets. The last one on the third day is Adrian Lewis versus Steve Beaton. There's another one that's lost a heap of weight. Adrian Lewis over the break for COVID-19. It's going to be a close match. I hope Steve Beaton wins because he deserves a good run at a good tournament. And I've got to go with Steve Beaton. There we go. Steve Beaton to beat Adrian Lewis. And then Wednesday at 3 o'clock, there's the last of the first round, which is Nathan Aspinall versus Dimitri Vandenberg. This is going to be tough for Nathan Aspinall. Nathan does turn up to the big tournaments and play them very well. And Dimitri's inconsistent, but he's thereabouts every time he steps on the stage. Nathan Aspinall for me, and that will round up the first round matches. It's always a good tournament, the match play. It's going to be a little bit strange for us all to watch the match play without a crowd there, but at least we've got the sport back on TV. And I just think it's going to be a very, very exciting tournament. And in the next show, I will nominate who I think will win, and I will also get Shane, who will be doing the previews and reviews with me, to select his winner on that day after we get through the first round. So that's the darts section done. We'll just have a little bit of a break and then we'll be back with you. Hi and welcome back to From the Shed, where we just love sport. And our next preview and review from one game is the AFL. And if you love the AFL, you love hearing this. It's one of those sounds that if you follow the AFL, you just love to hear, especially when it's live. And guess what, folks? We had a live crowd last night over in Western Australia where Collingwood played Geelong in front of 22,000 people. How good's that? We've had crowds in Queensland, but they haven't been that size. But we finally got there with a decent crowd. So the opening match was Collingwood and Geelong. It was a little bit wet over there. In the early stages, Selwood did a hammy or just tightened it up, and he didn't want to risk it. So he was out early on. Collingwood still prevailed by 22 points. There's been a few things on social media from the Cat supporters. Suck it up. guess what? You get everything every week, and Collingwood beat you to the ball all night. You were second to the ball no matter what. And don't blame the umpires for getting beaten. You got within 10 points with a few minutes to go, and they kicked 2 quick goals on you, and that just shut the door. So Jordan Nagoe was the standout goal kicker. He kicked 5. But the likes of Pendlebury and the Norm played well for Collingwood, and the usual for Geelong being Dangerfield and a few of the others. Redicola played well in the ruck. So there's a few good ones. The second match has got me stumped. I'm not usually keen on the betting on sports, but the next match is Essendon versus Western Bulldogs. It's at 10 to 8 tonight, being Friday. It's at Metricon Stadium. Now, they got Western Bulldogs as favourites. I'm going Essendon here. Having a look at the sides. Dylan Shields out for suspension for the hip and shoulder after going past the board. He deserved what he got. Martin Gleeson's been managed, so that brings Ned Cahill in for his first game. Who's out for the Doggies? Josh Scatchy, Lewis Butler, Riley West and Toby McLean. They've all been omitted. There's not much coming in. There's a new kid coming in, Cody Waitman. But even with those changes, I can't see how the Doggies are actually going to beat Essendon. So Essendon quite comfortably, considering how bad they've been scoring all the teams in this format. So that's Friday night. Then we move on to Saturday. Saturday's games, the GWS versus the Lions, Sydney versus Gold Coast, and Richmond versus North Melbourne. Brisbane for mine over GWS, even though it's their home ground. They're going to be a bit annoyed from the week before where they got beaten by Geelong. They looked good and then they got belted in the second half. So it's the Lions for me. I don't think there's any significant changes. Let me go and have a squiz for you. No. Now, there's... Yeah, it's even going to make me even more go for the Lions. Callum Ward's out injured. Daniel Lloyd's been managed. Toby Green's out injured. Tom Green's been omitted. Now, whether you like the boy or not, Toby Green is an excellent footballer and he does mean a lot to how they perform up forward. Even when he goes up into the midfield, he's quite dominant there. So the next game on the Saturday is Sydney versus the Gold Coast Suns at SCG. And this is going to be a good win, I hope, for the Suns, my second team. Live on the Gold Coast, support them. There's not much coming in, but there's a lot going out for the Swans. Isaac Heaney and Josh Kennedy are both out injured. They're going to be long-term injuries, unfortunately for them. And Sam Gray, Hayden McLean's been omitted. And who's coming? Elijah Taylor's coming in for his first match. They're only bringing back Alir. Alir's not a bad defender, but you can run off him. Callum Sinclair and Tom McCartan. But out for the Suns is Braden Fiorini. Will Powell comes in, so there's not much of a change there. So for me, probably 2-3 goals, the Suns. And then the third match, which should be a slaughter, I say, at Metricon Stadium, is Richmond versus North Melbourne. Couple of injuries, Paul Ahern and Taron Thomas for North Melbourne, unchanged at Richmond. They look like they hit their straps last week, Richmond. They played exceptionally. It was a scrappy, shitty game, but they started to look like they should be playing what they should be playing. It was 34-26, second lowest scoring match in history. But, they just started to look right. They were running well, running better than they had been. So I have no qualms with Richmond giving North Melbourne a touch-up, especially at Metricon. It's at 7:40. It could be a little bit greasy just with the dew coming in, but it's a fast, hard surface, so it'll suit Tigers' running game. Now, the first of the Sunday games is Carlton versus Port Adelaide at the Gabba. Then we go Hawthorn versus Melbourne at Giants Stadium, and then Fremantle versus West Coast, the derby over at Optus Stadium. Carlton are coming off a huge win the week before. They've only added a few into the squad. A couple of new players, Matthew Cottrell, Callum Moore, Sam Phillip and Zach Fisher. Haven't named the team yet, but there's Brad Ebert's out suspended. Cam Sutcliffe is out for Port, and Sam Mays is new for Port Adelaide. So it's good to see a few of the new ones coming in. I think this is because of the squash season. There's going to be a heap of games over 19 days coming up, so they're starting to manage their squads a little bit different. Now, Carlton won the week before and smashed the Doggies. And this is what I can't understand with the other match that I mentioned, Western Bulldogs playing. It was 103-51, so a 52-point win, and it was convincing. They were just like a train. That's the highest score, I think, this season, definitely since they've come back from the initial break. I don't think anyone's got anywhere near 100 points. And Carlton shone, even with Cripsy being a little bit dodgy with his shoulder. Now they got Port Adelaide's on top, but they've played well at the Gabba, Port Adelaide. But Port Adelaide should win, but don't be surprised if Carlton pushes them all away. The next match on the Saturday is Hawthorn. They're the team that I actually follow, and I have followed since I was a kid. And twice now they've been extremely insipid in their performances, and I hope they just don't do it again. It all depends on their starts. Their first and their third quarters have normally been pretty crappy. They're playing Melbourne at Giants Stadium at 3:35, so that's the middle game. Johnny Patton's out injured. No big loss there. Tom McDonald's out injured for Melbourne, so that's a bit of a loss. Darren Minchington comes in for his first game. Is there any? Jack Scrimshaw comes in. Sean Burgoyne's back in, and Mitch Lewis is back in. So that's a fair few ins for Hawthorn. Sean Burgoyne should shore things up. He's the sort of jack of all trades that patch everything up. So I'm going Hawthorn, but not confident, but Melbourne aren't travelling too well neither. So if it's a 0-0 draw, it'll be a good game. And the last one on Sunday is the big one, the derby, West Coast versus Fremantle. I just want to see. Fife's out and Hayden Young, so that's buggered them right up. I'm going to go West Coast quite comfortably. The loss of 5, that's huge. And the only thing that West Coast have done, they brought more in, so for me, West Coast on that one. And then we've got a Monday night game as well. Adelaide Crows versus St Kilda at Adelaide Oval. And St Kilda will win that quite comfortably. There's no lineups yet, but for me, it is St Kilda, even with no teams out. So that's round 7. of the AFL. Round 8's out, but, geez, you don't know what's going to happen week by week. They've got them all out. Victoria, all the teams are out of Victoria, so it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier for clubs to get around the country. So hope your team wins. Hope you enjoy the darts. And so that's the wrap-up of the AFL for this week. Our next show will be Monday. We'll do the Monday or Tuesday. We'll do the reviews of the weekend footy, the first round of the darts, and I'll have a little bit of a chat about how Queensland, my home state, is actually starting to get more and more sports teams up here, and that's including the V8 Supercar teams have actually come up to Queensland as well. So make sure that you subscribe to the show on all the podcast platforms. We will be doing live shows, and if you want to go with a live show, you need to go to Spreaker.com.au, get their app, and then follow us on there. And every time we go live, you will be notified. Also, let us know through comments or anything like that what you'd like to see more of. And also, if you've enjoyed this first show, make sure that you give us a good 5-star rating and also a few comments about what you thought of the show. Any feedback's good feedback, positive, negative, whichever way you want to go. But once again, I'm Pete George. Thanks for listening and enjoy your sporting weekend.